What's going on, everyone? Mike Kadlick and Tayler Kyles here for CLNS Media here on Patriots Press Pass, bringing you some breaking Patriots news as the Pats just signed Rhamondre Stevenson to a 4-year contract extension worth a grand total of up to $36 million. The deal includes $17 million in guaranteed money. This continues New England's path of drafting and developing and rewarding their hardworking players. We're going to get into all of it, but first, a quick reminder, this video is powered by Prize Picks, America's #1 fantasy app. You can use code CLNS for first deposit match bonus up to $100. And we're also brought to you by Game Time. So NBA Finals, obviously over. Can't go to Celtics games anymore, but it's summertime. It's hot outside. Go get a Fenway Frank. Go down to Fenway Park. Do whatever you want to. And if you do so and use code CLNS on the Game Time app, you get $20 off your first purchase with terms applying. Okay, Tayler Stevenson. He gets his deal. He mentioned towards the end of minicamp last week, he was asked about the potential of signing a contract extension as he heads into a contract year. He was asked about the idea of a contract year specifically. He basically said he's not worried about it and that he thinks the deal gets done soon. And that's what happened today. So your instant reaction, Tayler, to the Patriots rewarding their star running back.
Yeah, I had a feeling this was coming after the Christian Barmore extension because, like you said, the Patriots have been trying to reward the players that have been playing well for them and that they think are building blocks. I wrote a piece during the season once it was pretty clear that things were going pretty poorly, and everyone's like, all right, who do the Patriots actually have to build around? I had Rhamondre Stevenson as one of the few guys in that category, so this makes a lot of sense. I understand that some people were kind of curious about the value. Also makes more sense now that we know. We'll get into it more. There's a lot of incentives in this contract. Rhamondre Stevenson obviously finished last season on injured reserve, but he played all of 2022 really as their only true weapon. I think you could consider Jacoby Myers in a similar category. But if you're thinking about guys that people were game planning around, it was really Rhamondre Stevenson at the top of that list in 2022. Could probably say the same for the majority of 2023. Now, obviously got off to kind of a slow start through the first 5 weeks of the season. Hard to quantify why, because he didn't tell us that anything was wrong. He said he was kind of curious why he wasn't producing as well. I don't think it's a huge coincidence that City So was added to the lineup in week 6, which was when he really started to pick things up. And when you look at the stats, that missed tackles forced per attempt, yards after contact per attempt, which are really good metrics to see how well a running back is producing on their own. It's not perfect like any metric, but Rhamondre Stevenson was one of the best backs in the NFL, like top 6-7 range in those metrics. Once he, got into the City So got in the lineup in week 6, which shows you that he's still a very talented player. When you look at where he ranks in terms of money, he's 6th among running backs by total contract value, 7th by average annual value, and 7th by total guaranteed money. Gerard Mayo said it himself that he thinks that Rhamondre Stevenson is one of the better backs in the NFL. Rhamondre even told us that he slimmed down, and every offseason you can tell he really puts a lot of work into his body. In 2022, he said that he was expecting a bigger workload, so worked on his endurance and his stamina. This offseason, he said he actually weighs the same, even though he looks smaller, but that was because he lost some fat and put on more muscle. So the dedication that he brings, we mentioned it in our roster projection video, which I believe is going to come out after this video ends up dropping. But also the fact that he's one of the holdovers from the Ivan Fears era, which I think is invaluable considering how valuable he was in that room. He's been a leader on this offense, one of, again, the most productive and efficient players. So it makes a lot of sense to me. You want to reward someone like this who's done everything that you've asked. And he's one of the few running backs in the NFL who truly can play every single down. And when Antonio Gibson was brought in as that change of pace back, as that true pass-catching back who can run a full route tree, but we've seen Rhamondre Stevenson can be that 100-target type of player if you need him to be, and he's an exceptional pass blocker. And for those reasons, I think it was a no-brainer. You got to keep a guy like this. And running backs don't matter. That's been tossed around. Maybe that wasn't as true as even Saquon Barkley, he got himself a really big contract, I believe, with the Eagles. So it's really cool to see Rhamondre get rewarded because for all these guys that are getting these extensions, again, I thought he was somebody that absolutely deserved it.
Yeah, and I agree. I think he does deserve it. And I have been of that set, frankly, where running backs don't really matter. And you see Super Bowl teams where, they churn out back after back after back. And it doesn't you look at the best running back who's won a Super Bowl in the last 20 years, and it's Marshawn Lynch with Seattle, just about 10 years ago now. So sometimes it doesn't feel like it's that important, but at the same, it's obviously an important position, but the player there might not matter. However, with Stevenson, you mentioned the contract details, right? So an $8 million signing bonus, and then there's $12 million on top of it that can be earned with incentives, which include rushing for at least 1,400 yards, becoming a Pro Bowler, becoming an All-Pro. So, like, if you look at it through that lens, it's not like they're just shoving him guaranteed money that's just going to go by the wayside. Yeah, $17 million is decent, but this team had money to spend. They continue to have money to spend. So I think it's okay to reward a guy like this. Plus, he earns the incentives. That means he's a good running back and he's doing good things for you. It doesn't feel like wasted cash. And you mentioned too, and I can read it out now, where he lines up. He's the 7th highest paid running back. That puts him about where he should be. He's really freaking good. So it's McCaffrey, Kamara, Jonathan Taylor, Saquon Barkley, Josh Jacobs, Joe Mixon, Rhamondre Stevenson. That makes sense to me. It's not an overpay. They didn't just, again, obviously, but they're not shelling out $19 million for a back like the Niners do. It seems like a reasonable deal. Going into the incentive package a little bit more. Again, you can check this
out up on the screen also if you want to.
Yeah, have that ready because we can go through that. But the other thing too, when you mentioned the drafting and developing, Stevenson, Kyle Duggar, Mike Onwenu, Hunter Henry, Kendrick Bourne, Anthony Jennings, Josh Uche, all re-signed this offseason for the Patriots. We've talked about it on this show where it's like, oh, why are the Patriots, re-signing all the players on a 4-13 team? I hate that narrative. They re-signed the good players. They let the other ones walk. It's that simple. And Stevenson becomes that next guy. So I'm a fan of the deal, even though I have been a proponent of not really paying or overpaying for running backs.
Testing my skills on Prize Picks this season is the most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. If you have the skills, you can turn $10 into $1,000 with just a few taps. Use the code CLNS for the first deposit match up to $100. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy.
You want to pull up the incentive chart so we can take a quick look? All right, this is from Ian Rappaport, obviously NFL Network. So nothing coming up this season. You get $600K for each. What is this? For each? Oh, okay. So each yard scrimmage, 14, 15, 16. That makes sense. So you can check it out. I mean, you can look at it again. You can check it out from Ian Rappaport too. I'm not going to sit here and bore you guys to death and read the whole thing, but he has incentives pretty much coming up the next 4 years post extension into this season. So he can make up to $2 million for scrimmage yards, and then he can make more on that as far as if he makes the Pro Bowl or becomes an All-Pro first or second team. So I like the fact that it is rather incentive laden because it keeps it off his books unless he makes these things happen. And like I just mentioned, if he does make it happen and he turns into a perennial All-Pro back, then you're also kind of getting a bargain because you look at the numbers that McCaffrey is making, and guys like Josh Jacobs and whoever else at the top of that list, like he's gonna end up making less than them. And if it works out incentive wise, then it's all good with me.
Yeah, when you look at his scrimmage yards throughout his career, his high is about 1,460, I believe. Okay. So the 1,400 would likely to be earned. 1,500 would be obviously, him staying on the field and really being that every down type presence. And Antonio Gibson's going to cut into that a bit. So sure. 1,500 and 1,600 are probably less likely to be earned. 1,400 definitely is. And he's never made the Pro Bowl, never been an All-Pro. I'm not sure if he's quite there. It's obviously we know it's tough to make a Pro Bowl, much less an All-Pro team. But if he ends up improving, you pay guys not for what they've done. You want to reward guys, but you're also paying for what you expect them to become. And if Rhamondre, he's improving his body, he's putting in the work. If he continues to excel and become an even better running back, it's not totally, out of the realm of possibility that he ends up becoming that Pro Bowl, All-Pro caliber type of player. But again, in these incentives, I'd say the only one that's likely to be earned would be that 1,400 scrimmage yards.
Yeah, I think so too. And again, I think overall, I think it's a solid move that makes sense for this team. Again, giving, where they're at, his place in the offense, they're going to want to run the football. He talked about last week, watching Nick Chubb tape. And things like that, and kind of getting ready for what Alex Van Pelt is going to get ready for him to do this season. So again, Rhamondre Stevenson, a 4-year, $36 million contract extension with the New England Patriots, continuing their trend this offseason to draft and develop. Taylor, you got one more thought before we get out of here?
Who do you think's next?
Oh boy,
man, Judon and Godshaw aren't happy with their contracts. Do you think it's one of them? Do you think it's somebody else?
I think it's Devon Godshaw. I think Godshaw's earned it. I think he's going to be the one who gets the next sort of pay bump type of thing, kind of similar to what we saw with Judon last year. Because, again, he's doing the hold-in this year. Judon really isn't. So I'm going to go with Godshaw there. What about you?
Yeah, I agree, especially with Judon also coming off of an injury. It wouldn't be a shock for them to say, Let's see how he plays, for the first few weeks of the season, maybe in training camp, and really get a better idea. But with Godshaw, you know what you're getting out of him. He's been consistently on the field, one of the best run-stopping nose tackles in the NFL. I think it makes a lot. And again, he's only on a one-year deal with no guaranteed money. And he absolutely deserves to be rewarded. They had one of the best run defenses in the NFL last season. He's been that consistent, solid player in the middle. So, yeah, I would agree. I think Godshaw's probably next on that list.
Yep, we will sure see what happens. But for now, it's Stevenson, 4 years, 36 mil, 17 guaranteed, bunch of incentives. You can go check that out again from Ian Rappaport over at NFL Network. Keep it locked in here, always, at Patriots Press Pass for all of the breaking Patriots news. Go to Prize Picks, America's #1 fantasy app. Use code CLNS for a first deposit match bonus up to $100. And go to Game Time. Go to a Red Sox game. Go to a concert, whatever you want to do. It's the best ticketing app around. And use code CLNS for 20% off your first purchase. For Tayler Kyles, I'm Mike Kadlick. Be well. We'll talk to you next time.
Take the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets at Game Time. Download the Game Time app. Create an account. Use the code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem the code CLNS and get $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices, guaranteed.